Welcome back to Let's Talk Forestry. In this episode we are visiting a large mixed forest. This forest has unfortunately suffered from ash dieback, or also called Chalara. We are here today in the county of Meath to talk to Peter Farrelly. Peter's forestry journey started with planting his land with mixed forestry and went on to be actively involved in the management. Let's see what Peter has to say about his forestry journey to date.
This site was diagnosed with ash dieback in around 10 years ago, around 2014. But it wasn't officially, I suppose, diagnosed for a few years till we applied for the reconstitution grant. But it was obvious that it was in it, and it was pretty bad. But we knew it was widespread in the news at the time, so the information was there. So around 10 years it had it. It was 98 to 14, so that would have been about 16 years old at the time. Now, it wasn't bad at the start. It kind of grew again, you know, for another few years. It put on a bit of weight, but at the end it was completely decimated. But it started in around when it was 16 years old, but it completely died then, I suppose. By the time it was certainly 20 years old, it wasn't putting on any more bulk. In this forest there's two ash plots. This one here has 2 hectares, and I have 1 more hectare up above on the far end of the forest. It wasn't planted at the same time. This is a 98 plantation, and the other 1 hectare was a 2000 plantation. We applied for the reconstitution grant a few years ago first in one of the older schemes. There was the D- scheme. It didn't take that long, in fairness to them now. It probably took 9 months, I'd say, in around 9 months. It wasn't the biggest, but we waited because they kept changing it, and kept changing different schemes. And so that was a bigger delay, that they didn't deal with it quicker. Maybe, you know, they had schemes that was in and people weren't happy with it, and then they re-amended them. I love the forest, and I planted it all myself. I didn't go through any company. There was never anyone involved in this, just myself. And if I need someone to do a job, I get someone to do that job. I manage it myself entirely, really. Just get help from people to do plans and stuff. Anything I'm not able to do myself, I get someone in to do it. But it has to be managed by myself. I don't let anyone else manage it for me, so to speak. I was lucky with the contractors. I had different contractors in. I started off in this one first. I done this one first. This one was done, I done this one with a shears and a digger. And it was done for firewood, and he left very little of the tops. He took everything really, small stuff and everything, so there was small firewood and large firewood, so it didn't leave much branches. I got him with the digger and shears, and he done all. And then I took it out myself, so that wasn't hard to get. But then in the other, I wasn't that happy with it. There's a lot of rubbish firewood in it, and you know. So I changed around, and there was a fella with a harvester up where I live, about 8 miles away, and he was getting a job done. And I asked the harvester owner, would he come down and do 1 hectare for me? He probably charged me plenty, I don't know, but he did. He agreed to come down and do it. There was about maybe 1.2 hectares, and he done a great job. He just took the bottom 3 metres of every tree and left everything else for chip. And I thought that was a much better way of doing it. If I was doing it again, I would definitely do it all that way. It was very simple, it was clean, the firewood quality was better, and actually the chip made plenty of money. Whereas I'd no real chip here, I only had a few little bits, very, very little, maybe 1 load of chip here in 2 hectares, where I had probably 4 loads of chip in 1 hectare, you know. Everything was taken out. All the branches, everything, leaves, everything was taken out. Well, if I talk about the bit above, I'd say I took out the top 3 metres for firewood, and everything else was chipped. So we took everything out, firewood and the chip. So everything was taken out, so there was nothing to windrow. because I had taken the firewood out of this myself, I had seen how I actually tumbled a trailer in it, you know, because it was mounded originally. And it was very dangerous. You couldn't see the drains. The drains were quite deep because the spacing was so tight. The trees were so much up against each other. The drains where the mounds came out of in this originally in '98 were far worse than the softwoods because there were more trees put in, so there were more mounds, so the drains were slightly deeper. And I thought it was very dangerous. So what I did was I got a fella in with a digger and he levelled the whole place out and basically pulled probably 70% of the roots and pushed them down into the drains. It was a bit over the top, and it was expensive, but I just didn't want an accident. It was purely for health and safety and for my own comfort walking through it again afterwards. As you can see here today, it's much easier to walk through now than it would be if the old mounds were still there and you can't see where they are. We went for western red cedar and Sitka spruce and Douglas fir. 20% hardwood around the edges. So the 70% is done we kind of done it every third row of Douglas fir, Sitka spruce and western red cedar. Originally we did get permission to put all hardwoods in because the department were insisting on planning permission to change the species, but when they dropped that requirement for planning permission, we changed back to mostly softwoods in it. This is something I wanted to do. I wanted to try it out before I clear fell anything. I like the idea of a mixture of 3 different species, so I kind of wanted to get this going in that way to see what it's like. I can't say I'm entirely happy. It's very recently done. The plants went in May. I would prefer if they went in November. There's some failures, and I can say that I'm optimistic, but I think it's going to need a bit of work to get them going. I do, from talking to other people in the group that I'm in, it seems to be difficult to get particularly Sitka spruce to follow ash for some reason, whether it's nutrition or what. And I'm told that the western red cedar will follow it great. They'll survive and they'll do well. But the Sitka spruce and Douglas fir, I'm told, might struggle a bit, but we got to wait and see. Anyone that's following this, I would advise them, I think the best way out is the way I done the second. The hectare is just to try to get a harvester in. If there's a harvester in the local area, if you know some neighbour that's cutting, if you know someone within a 10-mile radius that's cutting, ask the man, will you go in and cut your trees, bottom 3 metres for firewood and the rest for chip. I think it's the best way to do it. Now, obviously, if you could get hurley butts, you're don't miss out on that if you have hurley butts. But I'm not so sure about the chainsaw and or the digger with the shears. I'm not so sure. I think it's okay if you have no other choice, but the harvester won't be beaten. I have no more ash, thankfully. I have other broadleaf in my forest. I have oak and a bit of alder, and then there's a bit up there, a bit of beech, but it's only for cosmetic reasons along a road and stuff. But I have a plot of oak and I have a bit of alder along a river. That's really all the other hardwoods I have, wherever's going back in here. Plenty of hardwoods in the ditches and the hedges and stuff like that, but no plots. My oak forest is little over 2 hectares, and the alder would be probably half a hectare, and the rest is just a few trees here and there along roads, and it's cosmetic mostly. It's not really, they're not plots, I wouldn't say. I think I like the oak the best, and it's probably a strange thing to say because it's only costing money. It's never going to make me money. It's probably never going to make my children any financial reward. Maybe my grandchildren will get something out of it, and maybe it'll be a total stranger, who knows. I won't be around, so it won't be my problem. But I do love the oak trees. I like them, and they're doing very well. They're a great oak plantation, but they certainly wouldn't be lucrative financially, but I do like them the best. But I think if this works, this could take over, because I'm passionate about a multi-species forest, and I hope to get one going in the near future, if I can get this one developed. It needs a bit of work, maybe lots of it, but we'll get there hopefully. I would have put more species in the softwood for sure. I wouldn't have mounded the hardwood. I maybe would have done different even in the softwood as regards. I would have put maybe 8 row instead of 7, and yeah, there's little things, but nothing major, but there is little things. Certainly it would have been planned different, but it's all hindsight, and it's all. I missed out on the hurley butts here because it was mounded. I had guys in and they said, yeah, I could get some hurley butts, but I'm not touching it because it was mounded, and there was a lot of, it was stony enough ground, and there was a lot of stones in through the roots of the ash. So yeah, there's little things like that, but nothing too major really. I have to say, nothing too major, no. I wouldn't have changed very much. I have a management plan for the future. Whether we'll be changing it or not, I don't know. We have a lot of, actually most of it down for continuous forest cover. I think it's the way the future is continuous forest cover. But if this works, what I'm trying to do here, I think it's a quicker way to get a multi-species forest developed, and the easiest way. I want a multi-species. I don't want one species. I have entire blocks of Sitka spruce. I'm not happy with that. So I want to take out some of that and put different species in. And maybe some of it will be clear felled, and maybe some of it will be CCF. I'd like to get trees where there's at least 3, maybe 5 or 6 different softwoods growing alongside each other. The problem is it's struggling at the moment to compete. The red tape is a disaster. The regulations, they're not good. They're so much worse than they were when I started here in '98. It was so easy to work with the relative Forest Service and all the other agencies. Now it's not so easy, and there's so much regulation and stuff like that. But apart from that, the competition for land at the moment is so high that figures don't add up. If you go to the bank looking for a loan to buy a block of land, it's not going to add up. The premiums is not going to pay anything like the repayments. The land has gone so expensive now that it's very, very difficult. I would go again if I could get the land, but land is very, very hard to get at the moment. There's serious competitions from the dairy farmers, the tillage farmers, businessmen. It's not like it was in '98. It's difficult, but yeah, I definitely would, but it's very difficult. I say to the next generation, yes, definitely. If you're going into forestry, get in early. I got in my 30s, and barring some natural disaster, yes, in 30 years, say when you're 60, 65, definitely. It grows at an enormous rate if you can get the right land. Certainly, I'm a beef farmer at home as well, and it beats beef every year. The only snag with it is it is a pension. You can't, if you need a couple of thousand in the morning, you can bring your cattle to the local mart and get you a couple of thousand. You can't do that with forestry. But on a yearly basis, per acre, per hectare, or any other way you want to count it, forestry will provide you with a greater income, but it's a long term. But yeah, it's ideal for a pension. As I said before, there's nothing to be afraid of in forestry. If you have the land and you want to keep the land and you want to change it into something that's good for the environment and good for your pension, yeah, I certainly encourage people to get involved. I think the way to educate yourself is you have got to do it. If you do it wrong the first time, you'll do it right the second time. And the groups are marvellous. Get involved in a group, definitely you'll learn from other people's mistakes. And it's the best way is to learn from other people's mistakes. It's much better than learning from your own because it doesn't cost you anything. I certainly have no regrets. I never for one day had I got a regret that I got involved in this. And I bought all this land, and it all got paid for, and never one day did I regret what I done. I even bought some other forestry there in Roscommon, and I think it's a great way to make a living, and it's I've made, you know, lucrative enough really out of most of it. You know, hardwoods for the future, and sure, good luck to whoever cuts them down. It's I'll try and leave it the best I can.
That's all for this month on Let's Talk Forestry. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll be back next month interviewing another forest owner at a different stage in their forest life cycle. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you to all those who have already subscribed and left comments to our previous episodes. All comments are read and replied to. We look forward to reading more of your comments.